You better be listening to Sleazoids or I must break you.
Only the author of Little Caesar could tell so dramatic a story. Only the director of The Treasure of Sierra Madre could film it with such power. Only once in a decade does the screen come up with such absorbing characters.
Please, Dix, please.
Are you crazy? I'm on the lam. I'm on a band, back in heat. If there's any trouble, what good would you be?
I could drive.
I'm wanted on a killing rack. You know what that means.
I don't care. I just want to be with you.
Look, I want to talk to you about an act of violence. My name is Van Heflin, and I'd like you to put yourself in my place. You're an ordinary guy, so you're doing pretty well. You've got a girl that you love. And then, without warning, out of your past comes a man who used to be your best friend. And when you look in his eyes, you find nothing but hate, menace, and murder. And because of what you did once, there's nothing you can do now. You try to get away, but you know deep down in your heart that everything is going to end in the sudden, blinding flash of a 45.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Sleazoids, the podcast where we go down the rabbit hole of 20th century genre fare, from the most influential canon classics to the trashiest exploitation films we can get our hands on, and invite you to tag along in helping us create a canon of sleaze. Each week is a double feature grindhouse style where we discuss two films loosely related by subject, genre, actor, filmmaker, or franchise, and at the end of each episode, along with our honorary Sleazoids, which you can become by subscribing on Patreon.
Next week, we are talking sharp blades and bloodlust, so join that sleaze.
Very true. We decide on all the official ratings and rankings for every film that we cover as well. And Patreon subscribers also get an on-air shout out and two bonus episodes every single month, which we are coming up on 8 years of bonus episodes, something like 200 plus at this point, as well as our bonus transmission series where we talk about new release genre films, which there should be one last one, I think, for this year before we get into the best of the year episodes that we usually start doing. So if you haven't made the jump yet, patreon.com/Sleazoids podcast. And speaking of which, we had a bunch of people to give their shout outs to today. We had a fanzine sign up actually at the annual tier, getting a bit of a monthly discounted rate for signing up for an entire year in advance. But then at $5, we had Placebo Cheeses, Dokioki, Angel B, Harry Likes Batman, Sandy Palacios, Dylan Bernstein, David Hugg, Ivan Jelkic, Duve, who signed up actually at the $10 tier, is going to be joining us for the monthly virtual screenings we try to do on the last Thursday of every given month. We had Spencer Owen sign up, Ben Badger, Leaf, Charles Williams, Fiona Johnston, Mike Engelberg, Genghis Pone, Ellie Parker, Anarkamu Koskatku. Come on, man. You got to put some spaces in that name. Kyle Sherman, Kyle Sherman, Lewis Tyler, and David Grobgeld. So thanks so much to all of you folks. Hope you're appreciating all those bonus episodes, and we appreciate that support.
Yeah, thank you very much.
That's the one plug for the week. The other plug, as always, Apple Podcasts and Spotify. If you're listening on either one of those platforms, and I can see the stats, I can see you right now listening on both those platforms, give us a good old rating and review over there. It helps us climb the ranks and find new listeners. And the last plug, as always, is merch. If you like the shirt design that friend of the pod, Brandon Lim of Black Belt Cinema, did for our show, with a lot of friends of the show's names on it. It's a nice poster design, blowout themed. Or if you would like a Sleazoids Dad baseball cap, you can get both of those now from the Black Belt Cinema store at the link in the description of this episode, as well as over at sleazoidspodcast.com. And I have been told that it is officially, I think it's been 1 or 2 weeks now, but it's been officially reopened for all the US customers who were briefly denied it due to gosh darn tariffs. But we are all good. Canadian made goods are coming your way. Sleazoids goods are on the way. A lot of you have actually been placing a lot of orders since we reopened, so thanks so much.
Beautiful. Thank you.
But that's the last plug for the week. Welcome back another week. I am your host, Josh Lewis, and joining me as always, my co-host,
Jamie Miller. Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome. I believe 2 weeks ago would have been the last time you folks over on the main feed would have heard from us, where we would have had special returning guest Jason Buford on the show to continue Noirvember with us, with a pair of LA blaxploitation neo-noir crime thrillers, specifically about black women in pretty desperate socio-political situations and go on sort of outlaw action hero mode. We talked about Jack Hill's Coffee from 1973, starring Pam Grier, and F. Gary Gray's Set It Off from 1996, which had an all-star cast: Jada Pinkett Smith, Queen Latifah, Vivica A. Fox, and Kimberly Elise.
Oh yeah, amazing. And it's so focused on the relationships, and it specifically connects to how the heists go, like as they develop. It's a really amazing film. Honestly, loved it.
Yeah, so if you haven't heard that episode, that was 2 weeks ago over on the main feed. But then last week over on the Patreon feed, it was actually your guys' patron voted episode, because once every 2 months we let you guys nominate a bunch of double features, and we put into a poll all the ones that you upvote the most from there. And you guys selected a double feature of labyrinthian conspiratorial Kafka noirs was how you pitched it to us. It was Orson Welles' pretty visually mesmerizing adaptation of Franz Kafka's bleakly absurdist The Trial from 1962, as well as Alex Proyas's much more darky artificial reality science fiction neo-noir Dark City from 1998.
Yeah, just pure gothic madness and beauty right there. And the Trial is just incredible. The changing scenery, it kind of reminds me of Playtime a little bit, but far darker, and just unbelievable directing. Great films.
We love Orson Welles and Alex Proyas equally on the show, is what we discovered last week. So if you haven't made the jump to Patreon, it's over there waiting for you. But moving on to this week, we have a very special guest joining us, longtime friend of the pod and co-host of Seeking Derangements and Movie Mindset, and making appearances on all kinds of podcasts near you at any given time. We have Hesse Deni. Hesse,
thank you
back.
So much for having me, and thank you for putting me on that beautiful shirt, which I believe my name is one.
It is on there. If you want to have a Hesse Deni in the credits of the shirt, there. No, we had to. We went through the list of like who are the people who have come on the show the most times. That was kind of our first pass that we were doing it, and we were like, Hesse is. I don't remember which one this is. This is probably the 4th or 5th time at this point. Hesse.
Yeah, wow.
Makes a regular appearance, and honestly, you become a regular staple to go through for Noirvember, because every time you show us something in the sort of noir category that we haven't seen before. I mean, especially last time you had us talk about The Sound of Fury on Shadow on the Wall, which were two films we literally had not heard of before. So when we were like, we need someone to wrap up Noirvember for us this year, you were kind of first on the list of someone we wanted to reach out to.
Well, it's an honor.
Yeah, well, no, welcome. And but Hesse, what 2 films have you brought with you this week, and why did they pair together for you?
Well, I brought 2 films that one that was on my short list for last Noirvember, and I think I just barely decided to forgo it. But I went with The Asphalt Jungle, the classic John Huston film of from 1950, I believe.
Perhaps folks have heard of this one. Maybe they know. Maybe they like Sterling Hayden. Maybe you like Marilyn Monroe.
Only people with names like Martin Scorsese and Michael Mann have heard of a film such as this. And I chose the 1949 film Act of Violence. And the connecting thread, or the Fred Zinneman made that one, starring Van Heflin and Rob Ryan. Rob and Van. What is this? The opening of Heat?
There it is.
Funnier the second time.
I think it was, honestly.
But and yeah, there's a few connecting threads. Obviously, like chronologically, these happen pretty close together to each other. And I think one of the main connecting threads is this idea of like the city as kind of a breeding ground for this kind of like criminal organism of this sprawling underground of hooligans and ne'er-do-wells and ruined women, and the city as kind of the place where you go when your life is fucked, and it just gets more fucked because of the dark, sexy power of the city that it holds.
Yeah. And
I mean, the title, The Asphalt Jungle, I think is very, very almost on the nose, but in a really like hyper specific way that I like.
Yeah.
And I feel like The Asphalt Jungle kind of has like it's more focused on the people that are within the underground that feel desperate enough to kind of pull off the heist. Whereas Act of Violence, it starts with somebody that seemingly has the normal.
It's a guy
kind of
who's really mad
life.
at the guy who tried to escape it. He's like, no, you're coming back.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of exposed from there. So it's cool to look at it from 2 different angles here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's like from the top descending into the city, and from the very bottom, kind of moving, attempting to claw your way out of the city. Like the two different modes.
Well, yeah, I mean, because that's just it. Is like we'll talk about it, but they almost mirror each other. I love how we're going to end like Asphalt Jungle with a character literally trying to leave and go to the countryside, and then we're going to open the one after with a guy who has made his escape to like the small town suburbs and stuff. And they were like, no, the city it's this haunting infection that's kind of coming for you in a way. So yeah, no, I'm excited to jump into these and to talk about some two legends here, John Huston and Fred Zinneman, which actually we'll mention it too. But last time Will Menaker came on the show, he did a Fred Zinneman double feature. So Movie Mindset is like trying to get us. Yeah, he did Oklahoma and Day of the Jackal. So you guys are ripping through the Fred Zinneman catalog here.
Oh my God, the way we're on the same wavelength. That's amazing.
Beautiful.
Excited. All right, but yeah, let's jump into it here. Let's kick things off and let's talk about John Huston's The Asphalt Jungle. All right, we are talking The Asphalt Jungle, the 1950 film noir heist thriller written and directed by John Huston, co-written by Ben Maddow, who was helping him adapt the 1949 novel by W.R. Burnett, and starring Sterling Hayden, Louis Calhern, Sam Jaffe, Gene Hegan, James Whitmore, and a bunch of others. Because I was surprised that actually, I, believe it or not, had not seen this. Because Hesse had brought it up a few times, I was actually kind of saving it. I was like, Hesse's going to bring it on at some point. And I did not realize that it was like as much of an ensemble film as it is, and how much it pays attention to not just like 6 or 7 different sort of guy characters. Let's each of them kind of live and breathe and gives you a little bit of story about each of them. But also almost every single one of them has like a woman in their life that also gets like a couple scenes where you pay attention to them and you learn about them. And I did not realize that's exactly what this was. And now I see it as like the prototype of so many other sort of like ensemble heist movies I've ever seen before, especially the ones where they treat the idea of making the criminals, making the heisters the protagonists, and making them kind of like these lonely blue collar guys trying to climb their way out of something, which is like such a common staple now when you think about Rafifi or The Killing or Charlie Varick or any Jean-Pierre Melville film or The Driver or Thief.
Like this, there's a weird Europeanness to this movie, you know? It's there's like a strange in the sparse kind of like the sparse way it's shot, the very it doesn't pull punches. It's all these different like things happening just being presented to you basically as and it's all these just like small things going wrong. It kind of reminds me of like L'Argent or like something like that, where it's like just something, you're watching something slowly unravel, and like you're watching a Jenga tower where the tower gets dragged every time someone pulls a little piece out of it. And you just know it's going to fall and you're just waiting for that moment. It's very fun. Also, like, I've seen this movie like twice before, but I forgot Marilyn Monroe was in it and spent the first after her first scene, I was like, that girl looks a lot like Marilyn Monroe. They really got a Marilyn Monroe type for this, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of surprising that this is her first movie. It is her debut. And I think we'll get to her scenes, but I think she's fantastic. She's a huge impression for the, 3 scenes that she gets. And I was surprised too that it wasn't just like what she did with her performance. She is kind of given like a little bit of an actual character and has a little bit of an arc with the sort of like corrupt lawyer character played by Lewis Calhern. She ends up kind of getting involved with. But no, I like what you're saying already about the sort of Europeanness of it. And I think part of that is because so many Europeans were so heavily inspired by this. So I associate this so hugely with like Rafifi and Le Cercle Rouge. Like having watched it now, I'm like, totally. Oh, those movies feel like they ripped John Huston right off. But there's also some crosstalk happening because this is obviously this is actually our third time talking about John Huston, and we've talked a lot about the fact that he was like a boxer and a painter and a stage actor, and somehow all three of those things feel like they made their way into every one of his movies. Like they're very artful, but they are kind of tough and economical, and they do have a very writerly quality to them. Like he really appreciates giving actors dialogue in a way that like maybe some of the noir filmmakers really prefer doing expressionist photography. And this is, I think, an example of, you know, I would look back at, you know, even comparing this to Maltese Falcon or even High Sierra, which is actually what he scripted that for Raoul Walsh, and it was also a Burnett adaptation. But this one, it was so naturalistic in a way I didn't expect, because I think I looked at it and I just imagined what the movie was, and I imagined one of these very German expressionist, very stylized, you know, very beautiful noirs. And this has moments where it's like you have the guys all collected in like a headquarters where there's one lamplight and there's, you know, smoke everywhere, and, you know, a little bit of that. But there's also quite a bit of him doing like what is some neo-realist inspired like location photography, and actually kind of underplaying certain moments. And yeah, I kind of agree. There was almost like some moments where I was like, this could have been an American Bresson movie or something like that.
Yeah, the shadows, a lot of the shadows are softer, you know, not as many. I mean, it has all these hard shadows, but they're softened by all of these, like there's a softness and a gentleness to the movie, I feel like, in that you feel bad for every one of the people in it, you know? Like, there's no real, like, big villain. I guess maybe, like, the cop kind of sucks, but...
Yeah, he's probably the only person. The dirty cop is the only person in the ensemble, I feel like, who just goes, well, that guy's just a shithead who betrays his friend. And that sucks. But there's other people who double cross people, and eventually you're kind of like, oh, but he maybe didn't deserve that. I don't know. That seemed pretty.
He's a good guy. Damn. Like, he's just too trusting, you know? Like, Cobby is too... I feel so bad for him. He's, you know, even though he did rat.
He really does start to get like, and he's presented so strong at first too. So when it does happen to that scene where he's starting to get like beat up and put into a certain position, it does, you do feel sympathy for him and really everybody, like you said. There is kind of like a sturdiness to this film, especially in the first half, that I would think, like, with all of these characters, like we were saying, there's almost, you know, 6 or 7 different perspectives that you kind of have to balance before everything comes together. You'd think it would be overwhelming. And in a sense, when it's first introduced, it could be possibly, but I feel like there's such a slow pacing and a deliberate way of revealing each character that's so different from one another that it does kind of help you separate everybody until they get together for the heist.
Yeah, it feels like it just has a rock solid base of well-written characters, which is, from what I understand, it's what really appealed to Huston about this author and about it, because he had already adapted him before. It's obviously, it's the guy who also wrote Little Caesar for the book that was adapted as the Edward G. Robinson film. So he was a fairly well-known sort of crime novelist at the time, and Huston had already adapted High Sierra for him for Al Walsh. And so when he was given a choice of like what he was going to do, this was what Huston made as his follow-up to doing Treasure of Sierra Madre, obviously, because he had been on that roll of Humphrey Bogart films, because he did Maltese Falcon, Sierra, and then Treasure of Sierra, and then Key Largo, and every single one of these movies
goes insanely hard.
It does. I mean, especially the Treasure. Like, I haven't rewatched that in a while, but sometimes I think about like the Mexican mountain gold prospect, just the sweatiness and the intensity of how greedy those characters are, and how it's not quite a Western and not quite a noir, but it is both also at the same time. So I really feel like I need to go back to that. And it's interesting that this was the only one of the 3 to not star Humphrey Bogart of doing doing this whole run of movies, because I do feel like Bogart, I don't know, maybe he would have been too much of a suave movie star to like give himself over to what is ultimately like more of an ensemble. Like you do feel like these are more everyday guys, seems to be the appeal, because I know that that's what Burnett's novel is kind of doing. He gave each character kind of an eccentric personality, but then the rest of the novel is this very cops and robbers procedural thing. And from what I understand, Huston went in and scrapped like the cop side of it. Basically, he said, "Fuck the cop shit. I just I like these like crook characters, and I really want to pay attention to them," which was something that, you know, became such a huge staple of the genre. Like you watch a heist movie now, and the stress and the tension is that you want to see the guys do the job, you want to see them be professionals, you want to see them get away with it. Usually, you're given these sympathetic reasons they're getting involved in it in the first place. This is such a huge staple of this, and at the time that Huston was trying to get this made, literally Louis B. Mayer was like, what the fuck is this script? Why? Like MGM was already more in like the musical game and the comedy game, and was just trying to get into kind of like that Warner like crime thriller market because it was doing so well for them. But the quote that goes around, if you look this movie up, is Louis B. Mayer saying that this is trash, calling it the asphalt pavement thing, and saying that it is just a movie full of nasty, ugly people doing nasty things, and I wouldn't even cross the street to see a picture like that.
I think I read I wouldn't even cross the room to see a picture like that.
Oh my God, Louis.
It's wild too, because like nobody gets away with anything, and so it's not like it shows this, you know, it still has a tragic, harrowing kind of fatalism to a lot of people. It totally
follows the code. Yeah, it's like you follow a bunch of crooks and they end up getting punishment. Crime doesn't pay. All that hits. But I think it's because you spend so much time kind of empathizing with these guys and caring more about them than you do the other characters. When you get to the end and the cop is giving this huge speech about how, you know, we're going to take down all of this crime in the city and all that kind of stuff, you don't feel good about that. It doesn't feel heroic. You just feel like those were a bunch of like loners and laborers who just got like killed for trying to like survive, essentially, is what it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then, like, oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say too, and then having that immediately have one of the characters pass after, you'd almost think if they were trying to make it the clean wrap up that you just end with the cop doing the speech, but they don't do that. And it feels, I don't know, feels like he misread the film in a sense. But it's I think what's amazing about Huston is that he's able to like sneak those things in when it was to code or whatever, and it still feels as if he's saying something much larger. We just talked about a movie, it might have been the first week of the Noirvember, that had that similar thing where they did kind of a switch so that the audience still feels as if they're empathizing with the criminal rather than
I think it was Detour. We talked about how in post they came up with the ending. Like they literally shot the ending where he gets caught because that was what they had to do for the code. Mm-hmm. But they structured it so that, or they edited it so that it feels like a dream or like a weird, like anxious, like nightmare that he's having, that he's going to get caught someday in the future, which is just a genius move.
Right. Yeah.
That's how you get around that shit.
Also, I can't. The more I think about it, the more I realize why Bogey wasn't involved in this. Because like, I'm racking my brain. Like, which character would he play?
He doesn't make sense. No, he doesn't make sense.
It'd be like Sterling's, I guess. But I feel like Sterling has such a grit and a vulnerability to him that he wouldn't do necessarily.
He's got to look like a wall, you know. He's got to be a hooligan, you know. And Bogey is
and Bogart pretending to be like a Southern farmer. I don't know.
Yeah.
No, Hayden is awesome. He's playing Dix Handley here. Obviously, Kubrick loved this movie. He would also cast him in his heist-noir only 6 years later, The Killing. And then obviously take him for Dr. Strangelove as well. Later, it would start a relationship between those men. But Hayden is sort of the first image we see in the film. He's running around these sort of anonymous kind of rundown Kentucky, Ohio locations. He's being picked up by the cops for booking and for essentially possibly being the stick-up man in a robbery. And through sheer presence, just scaring the witness into not ratting on him because he's just so tall and blonde and staring at him. He's like, I can't fucking I can't deal with this shit.
That was a crazy realization to be like, oh, they didn't even give a fuck. They were just like, the criminals could just see you back in those days. when you were doing a lineup.
Rat this guy out, and they were just like, no, I'm good, actually. I'm fine. And then the commissioner screaming at him, why aren't you getting, he's literally like, it's so frustrated that he's not catching these guys. He's like, why aren't you beating these witnesses into pointing at the correct guys who's part of these like robbery crew? Because we get, it's Commissioner Hardy played by John McIntyre, and Lieutenant Dietrich played by Barry Kelly is the sort of corrupt, who we also find out is also just a dirty cop who is involved with the bookie character in this. But yeah, Jamie, you were right. Like, this just throws those three characters at you in the opening scene. And then it's like we have a few more left to go. It was after we meet sort of who's going to be Hayden's partner in crime in the film. Yes, Doc Reidenschneider, played by Sam Jaffe
or something. It's the same name as Tony Shalhoub's lawyer character in The Man Who Wasn't There, which is how I remembered it.
Okay. Well, I'm going to call him Doc because that's really easy. He's played by Sam Jaffe, who was a good friend of Huston's, and I guess got Oscar nominated for this performance. He is a renowned sort of organized criminal mastermind in the underworld who has plotted some high profile capers back in the day, and has sort of recently been released from prison, serving 7 years, and basically looking to get back into the game for like one last big job before fleeing to Mexico. And as a result, we meet all these other characters around him. He meets a bookie named Cobby, played by Mark Lawrence, his cash-strapped lawyer slash quote unquote fixer contact named Emmerich, who is Louis Calhern, who I love how the cop describes him later in the movie. He's like an educated man who uses his brains to circumvent the law. He's like a disgusting man. And he's essentially just, they go to him for sort of front money, and also because he's a sort of well-connected fencer, and they use him to then be like, then we need to grab the classic heist movie crew for this $500,000 jewelry heist. And they go, well, Sterling Hayden, he's big, he's scary, he's an angry, proud hooligan.
They say we need a hooligan, a box man, and a driver, which I'm like, it's like Overwatch or some, like a video game. The three classes. There's tank, there's DPS, there's healing. Yeah.
And whoever's doing the safe cracking has to do a little shimmy underneath the laser or whatever they're doing. I love that move. That shot is amazing.
Oh my god! The most useless laser in film history.
I also love the way that Doc is introduced, where it's like his face isn't shown, but there's this sense of power in a way, like he knows what he's doing. Where
he's silhouetted in like a way that you're like, you want to know who this guy is. He seems important,
and it's like the way angle. Yeah, and the way he confidently knocks on the door, and there's this giant guard, but he doesn't seem fazed by it whatsoever. And then, he gets permission, he goes down the hallway. I just love how the camera always has this kind of this sturdy kind of slow pacing to it with the pans and everything, and just the slow reveal of everybody. But that one in particular feels like, that this guy's done this 1,000 times.
And that's one of the more like stylized moments, it feels like, but it's still subtle. It's underplaying it a bit, but it is going like, this guy has some power and some weight to him. And when he gets into that room, and at first they're like, who is this fucking old German man? Get him the fuck out of here, this elderly fool. And then he says his name, and they're like, you're
like,
Doc.
Oh my god!
Get on in here, Doc. I want to hear about this. And then when Hayden comes in and he tries to like lowball him or whatever because he keeps betting on the horses, and Hayden's, don't bone me. You just boned me in front of a stranger.
You'll get your money. His booming deep voice, and he's like,
I love him so much.
He's
my
so
god,
cool in this.
That's the thing too, is like him feeling as if he is getting boned, and it still feels like there's this power to him at the same time. Like he's strange because he's definitely down on his luck and looking to move on with his life, but there's something about the way he channels his kind of desperation. There's still something very determined about it, and kind of, I don't know, confident in a way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I just liked how they gave him actual character because I just wasn't expecting the amount of character detail we were going to get out of some of these guys. Like the fact that he's going to Cobby because he bets on the horses all the time and he loses money. And you know right away in that scene that he's a very proud man. And he's just like, what, you think I can't get the money and I won't pay up? So he literally runs out the door, basically goes to his buddy down the street who will become the sort of driver for the film. Yeah, he's his buddy who owns a diner, also loves stray cats. His name's Gus, played by James Whitmore. He borrows the money from him so that he can go back into it and pay him back and be like, you made this big show about how I couldn't get this money and now I have this money for you. And he literally takes it from like his working class buddy who is just barely gets the cash together so that he can put on this performance here. And we find out that only reason he bets on the horses is because his family used to own a horse farm that he's trying to get back to. And he has these conversations with his girlfriend Doll, played by Gene Hagen, who he's trying to get back to that real Dick's Hanley, that real Hanley lifestyle and just make a little bit of money and go back and buy the family farm back.
Hickorywood Ranch or whatever. I think it was what it was called. Someday we're going to get Hickorywood Ranch. I need $12,000. Meanwhile, the heist in this movie is for $1 million. And which he is none the wiser, none of the people involved, because they're getting paid I think $50,000 across the three of them between Gus, the driver, Dix, the hooligan, and also the last guy, Louis Ciavelli, the safe cracker, played by Anthony Crusoe, who were given sort of the backstory of being like a family man and kind of having a wife and a sick baby he's taking care of. He's an Italian. He's a good Italian boy. He's getting his wife's got the first one out. She's gonna have a few more, maybe 6 or 7 more. Forget about it.
$12,000. That's all he needs.
Yeah, and I love that when Gus, he borrows the money to pay Cobby from Gus, and Gus borrows half of it from Louis to pay him.
The working guys are sticking it to the money men.
Yeah, it's like they're using the same $1,000. It keeps circulating in Cincinnati over and over again.
Yep, and then I guess one of the first hints you get that this rich loan guy is not going to be the most trustworthy person is one of the first scenes with Marilyn Monroe, actually, where he kind of goes to her and she wakes up and she's got the doughy eye, almost very cute, how are you kind of greeting or whatever, but then she calls him Uncle Lon. And
you're like, I don't like that.
Yeah, and at first,
not a fan of that.
At first, you're like, well, okay, maybe this is his niece. Yeah. There's clearly a 30-year age gap here, and so then it's like, don't call me that. And she says, I thought you liked when I called you that. And then and there's so much implication there that they don't. I mean, they explore it enough, of course, that you need to, but just that alone, I think, says so much about his character and his power dynamic and just how vulnerable Monroe's character is in this moment, but seemingly unrealizing it as well.
And John Huston, definitely not the first or the most famous time he has incestuous illusions of a big rich character in a movie. When a character that he plays, the mayor.
I was gonna say that's actually maybe the last time we talked, because we haven't talked about him in a while, but we did his as a director. But his performance as Noah Cross in Chinatown was maybe the last time we talked about him. Jesus. And then the time before that, we talked about Clint Eastwood playing him in White Hunter Blackheart, but in that era when he had that Ahab-like obsession with going big game safari hunting while shooting the African Queen.
Right, yeah.
Which, by the way, is right after shooting this. He shoots the African Queen directly after shooting the Asphalt Jungle.
That's crazy. I was forgetting he made the African Queen. That's
he left the set of this movie and then literally went drunkenly crazy trying to shoot lions in Africa. Elephants, sorry.
Way much worse.
Much worse.
It feels more evil.
Oh my god.
So Huston, strange fella, but in this particular, I think what he's doing with these characters, and he's introducing us to all of them, but he's weaving them together in a way that there is like a network of, you see how these guys push and pull each other, you see how they're connected, you see how there is almost a collective survival by some of them staying together, but also the ones who feel that they're above the other ones. And I mean, you see a character like Emmerich, who obviously has this sugar daddy mistress relationship going on with Marilyn Monroe, also has this private detective on the payroll named Bob Branham. That's
maybe who Bogey could play, but it's such a small role that I don't think he'd be.
It's such a humiliating role because he seems so cool. Yeah. He seems so cool and so tough, and he lets Emmerich lets him into his double cross plan to be like, look, during the fencing process, I'm just going to not give up the money and we're going to run away with the jewels, which in retrospect, I was like, what a stupid plan. Like, they don't fall for it, like, even for a second. And I was like, I don't know why they thought that they were like, that Doc was like an idiot and who would fall for this. Doc is actually the reason he hires Dix is because he goes, that's a strong man who I believe to be an honest man.
Yeah, their loving relationship between them. It's such
beautiful.
A beautiful bromance. I love it.
I actually did think that his plan, when he finally does reveal like how he's going to tell them that, you know, he has to wait for the money, would be more elaborate, but it feels as if he makes it up on the spot. He's literally just like,
can you please just give me
goes,
the diamonds for nothing?
I forgot the money. Fuck.
It's kind of funny. It's almost as if he's like looking to the private investigator or whatever that he's hired as the kind of the guard, and just been like, don't worry, man, I've got this.
I got this.
Don't even say a word. When they come into the room, I know exactly what to say. It's just like,
which is funny because it's the same relationship that Doc has with Sterling Hayden. Because he goes, this guy's got me if shit hits the fan, but he goes, I actually do trust this guy, and also I already thought that this Emmerich guy was behaving suspiciously like right away because he just, you know, he has a brain cell, and that's all it takes for him to turn it around on him. But the actual heist scene too, I wanted to point out, it's not as long as the ones obviously that you would see in like Rafifi and Le Cercle Rouge. It did feel like the French guys were like, it was pretty neo-realist, but you know, maybe, you know, it didn't have 40 minutes straight of a guy just like chiseling.
People are talking sometimes in it.
Exactly, but it's for an early American heist film, it's as pretty close to that as you can get, with Louis sort of hammering his way through the jewelry store brick wall, giving you the process of making his way in, disarming the place, opening the door from the inside, having them sort of like march their way towards the safe, circumventing the shittiest motion sensor in the world, the steel gates that don't really seem like they're locked, but I don't know, maybe they were. And then my favorite detail is using the soup, like homemade nitroglycerin that Louis just brews in on the Italian oven. I guess, I don't know, but he is what ends up. He blows the safe open, and the detail I love, which I have to assume is from the book, is just the tension of them blowing it, and they've shut off the alarms for the building, but it triggers an alarm. The blast is so large, it triggers an alarm across the street. And so the fact that they decide to continue the robbery, hearing police sirens and cops like pulling up to the building across the street, just the tension of that, I think was a really great choice.
Oh, it was awesome. And I also love when they're hiring Louis as the safecracker, there's an amazing part where they're where Doc is grilling Louis, and he's like, how many boxes have you chiseled? Do you ever go through the and he's like, a firecracker, 1290s and a 15x9, and he's like, wow. it's just like this complete gibberish, but it's like, wow, these guys are so fucking cool. All this talk like, where do you get your soup? I make my own. It's like, oh my god, it's awesome.
I also love that the sound design in this, they do scoop it out, which I think is I think they do that later on in like Rafifi, they do it. Le Cercle Rouge, I think they do it. So it is cool to see that idea that this is kind of like incredibly intense, so we're not going to have too much of a score or anything. We're actually going to have the ambience of it, and then when it gets loud after the explosion, like you said, Josh, it just kind of, that becomes the score itself, is them just rushing everything, and then the cops are on their way and it's closing in on them,
shuffling their way out, being like, oh no, the Night's Watchman is opening the door, and I love, slugging him in the face, and the gun going off and accidentally hitting Louis in the gun, just kickstarting this chaotic sort of citywide manhunt for these guys.
And I love, like, later in the movie when Louis is at his home being treated by the doctor, or waiting for the doctor even, and it's Gus and Louis' wife. And Louis' wife has a line that she says that the police sirens sound like a soul in hell. And I just love that line. There's so many little lines like that are amazing.
There's a lot of great lines. My favorite line was Lon when having Marilyn lie about an alibi for the cops, because there's during the sort of meeting gone wrong where they pull up with the case full of jewels, and Emmerich doesn't have the money and he needs a few more days to raise it and all that kind of stuff, and he's like, well, I would graciously hold on to the jewels while you guys are being hunted, and no one would suspect me, a high society lawyer, and like no one in the room is stupid enough to fall for the routine. His PI whips out the pistol, Dix pulls out his, and they trade gunshots, and Hayden just obviously goes fucking rage mode, wants to kill Emmerich too, but Doc is the cool, collected, he sees the opportunity to sort of use him as an intermediary between their current hot seat situation of they have a bunch of jewels, they're being looked for, they don't have payment yet, they need this guy to I think they suggest going to the insurance company and trying to like buy them out of the diamonds and all that kind of stuff. But after that happens, there's this incredibly blunt moment where he hurls Branham's corpse, because Sterling Hayden shoots him and kills him, and he hurls him off a bridge into the sort of this black water below, and as a result the cops find his body pretty quickly and go to him, and they're basically like, what were you doing the night that your private investigator just took a gunshot and fell into a river? And he was like, well, I was, if you need to know, I was making love to my mistress from 11:30 until 3 in the morning. And then when he does that, he crosses the room and goes over to his wife. And I can't remember if it's the first time we see his wife. Maybe it's the second time we see his wife.
Yeah, because we've confirmed that he has a sick wife. I think the moment after we get introduced to Marilyn Monroe,
she's bedridden and just wants him to spend time with her. So it's so harrowing.
He's already doing this power dynamic. You're already kind of like, he's a piece of shit. Then they move to the wife and you're like, wow, he's just totally evil.
He's a fucking dickhead. But I love the moment, and it's maybe one of the few moments I kind of had my heart open up just a tiny bit towards this guy, is when the wife goes, why are you associating with all these awful criminals? Why are these cops coming after you? I don't understand any of this. And he basically goes, there's nothing so different about them. Crime is only a left-handed form of human endeavor, because he completely understands exactly, like, he's basically like, they are technically just as honest and honorable as someone who has a job like me, and in fact I think everyone watching would argue more so. He's probably the most corrupt guy involved in that whole thing, so he's defending their character to his wife, because he knows that they're not so bad.
I also love when after Sterling Hayden pops his little cop flunky, and he gets really mad and he's like about to blow away Emmerich, he yells at him, "What's inside you? What's keeping you alive?" It's such a good strong guy line to yell.
That there's another line too that I love that I think Dick says to Doc, I believe, where he's just like, actually don't kill him, it's too easy an out for him, which is a really awesome thing that connects to later on where the rich guy kind of takes himself out. And so it does kind of, I don't know, give a heaviness to that line earlier on. And also just to say it, because I find it to be funny. Another thing that he does when he's kind of screwing them over is he was like, we moved too fast. And they're like, we moved on your word. We did everything to your schedule. What the fuck are you talking about?
You told us when to go.
Yeah. Like it's so funny that he had none of that figured out. But anyway, those couple lines are
and
great.
that's why I love that line from his private investigator who sits on the couch in the corner and goes, dude, this isn't working. They're not buying this. He pulls the gun out and escalates that situation because they were like you underestimated that these people, have a little bit of a brain.
Oh, okay.
God,
trying to
funny.
fool the cute little elderly Doc. He's a criminal mastermind.
Yeah.
Did you see that intro we gave him? Come on.
Yeah.
Everybody knows this about him.
Another line that really cracked me up is when they find out that Cobby is like basically like he's part of everything, and the cops find out that the Doc is probably the last place the Doc was seen was at Cobby's place, and the commissioner gives the lieutenant these orders like, go in there, raid it with everything you got, bring me this guy. And the lieutenant goes to him to warn him before he does it. And he's like, hey, look, we're going to come and we're going to arrest you and you're going to come quietly. And he's like, but before he tells him that, he's like, Cobby offers the lieutenant a drink, and he's like, no thanks, I don't drink on the job, it's against regulations. As he's like warning a witness of warning a criminal before he gets arrested. It's like, what the fuck, dude?
Just priorities out of whack here.
Yeah, no, but I mean, that's what I like so much about this ensemble, and how it really does trace like how a network of people, how these people all have specific jobs, but in some way they all are, I don't know necessarily friends, but colleagues, some of whom become friends over the course of the movie. Like, I mean, Doc and Dix especially are the two who have the most, of a connection between each other, I think, because the two of them just kind of see a little bit of both behave honorably, or at least, and the big blonde guy has a little bit more smarts to him than I think he appears. And whereas the Doc character has, isn't as helpless, I think, as he appears to the Dix character, and the two of them are just kind of, even though they have completely opposite just like temperaments and skill sets and all of this, they end up kind of being like, we make actually a pretty good team, and we honestly, they get the closest to surviving and kind of making their way out, because everyone else just gets picked off one by one. Like, at a certain point, the movie just becomes a funeral march for all of these characters who are getting captured. It really does start, I think, with the scene you highlighted, Jamie, the one where the commissioner arrests Emmerich for his complicity in the robbery and the murder, while he's, plotting his escape with Marilyn Monroe, who is sitting on the couch being like, imagine me in a green bathing suit on a beach in Cuba. Yipe! Yipe!
Golly gee.
I love also when the cop barges in on her in the bathroom and she's like, haven't you bothered me enough, you big banana head?
I think she also pulls I'm ever so sorry. I love that comment. It's great. It's good. Classic Hollywood stuff.
Every cop who looks at Marilyn Monroe literally makes like the wowzers face is how I'm going to describe it.
There's one part where he's like, yeah, boss, I went to go talk to his mistress. How did she impress you? Very much. She's some babe.
Every one of them has a line about it.
Yeah. She was like, no, did you think she was telling the truth?
I guess so.
Lieutenant, she's hot. It's just hilarious. It's so good.
She really she does amazing work in that scene where she's being pressured by the cops and is like on the verge of tears. I was like, wow.
That's the one where your heart breaks for like her in that moment, especially because watching her squirm, maybe the only moment of grace they give to Emmerich is that Emmerich feels bad and just goes, just tell them. Like, stop. Like, I like the pain that you're in. I can't watch this. Please just turn me in, wrap me out. And the way that he goes, like he pats her and is like, you did well. And basically, and she goes, are we still going to go on like our trips? And he's like, you'll go on plenty of trips. Like, I promise.
Yeah.
They will not be with me because I'm about to go into the other room under the pretense of phoning. Under writing my suicide note and then instead just blowing my fucking brains out.
I was curious if that also implied that he was going to leave her a bunch of money in the will or something, as opposed to his dying wife or whatever it is. Because like,
I thought he was just saying she's so beautiful, there's someone else who will take her on a trip.
Absolutely.
I love
her life's going to be okay after this, but he needs to get out of it, which is pretty grim.
I do love the shot where he's telling him that he's going to be arrested, and they have this like kind of real close-up shot where the cop takes up like an entire 3/4 or half of the frame, and then you can see Emmerich in the background, kind of almost shocked that he's actually getting arrested. There's some again, it's nothing is terribly show-offy. It just feels very well thought about and put together.
It's very purposeful and very deliberate, and it's telling this story and honestly managing a fairly complicated story of all these different characters and like a lot of plot actually that connects. I mean, it makes sense if you're adapting a procedural crime novelist like this, but the Huston really does care about character work and acting and the lines that some of these characters get. Like I was surprised that you can give a character like Emmerich, who is such a scumbag on the page, and give him a kind of graceful end like that when he goes out of his way to be like, stop torturing Marilyn. I see the way this is going. I'm just going to kill myself.
And I love he writes the suicide note and then looks at it, rips it up, and just shoots himself. And it's you just see like the muzzle flash like illuminate the ripped up note on the ground. That was very French to me. That was very, very European to have the ripped up note.
And he feels just so defeated too. Like it's like he doesn't even want to say a statement really. He's just kind of done. It's like everything's been said.
Because after that, it's just like Cobby getting fucking slapped around by this cop, sweating his ass off, being like, you need to tell me where Doc is. And then, him ratting out all the other guys. So Gus ends up arrested and he's screaming like "Fink" at Cobby while he's being dragged through the police station. Maybe the most harrowing when they go to arrest Louis, and instead they find his wife mourning him at his funeral that's already underway.
They had to have known that that was a funeral they were going to. He pull up to like a funeral home and they're like, he's in here.
They're like, where is he? They're like, he's in the coffin, officer.
My favorite detail of that is how they have the suspenseful build up to it before they crash open the door, and he just kicks it open, and instead of like bursting through or anything, the priest is kind of almost already there and just calmly is like, he's dead. Like there's nothing. There's no one to arrest.
There's like 100 crying Italians in this room. Please don't come in.
And then the wife is like, it shows the wife like peeking over a little bit, and the priest is like, "You guys better get out of here. He's gonna fuck you up if."
And after giving the wife the only scenes of like taking care of the sick baby, and then seeing her husband with like the bullet wound in his gut, like getting upset at Gus for the danger, obviously, that he got him into, and then the next scene we see her, she's at her husband's funeral, and you're just like, God damn.
This poor woman. I also like when she's mad at Gus and yelling at him, she calls him a hunchback, and I didn't realize up until that point that he was it's supposed to be like a hunchback. I just thought he had gamer posture, because
that's just what that is.
It's pretty minor. Like it's not that big. I was like, oh wow, I guess maybe he does have a bit of a hump back there.
But then that's where she goes too far. That's where she has to take it back. She's like, I'm sorry,
I said that.
I know that you're just like a hunchback who owns a diner who loves stray cats, and everyone loves you, and you just lend money to people.
Oh, that was so sweet when that guy was like, why is there a cat in here? This is a restaurant. And Gus is like, get the fuck out of here, you piece of shit.
Out of here.
He's just like me.
He physically removes him too. It's not just like yelling at him. He like grabs him and throws him out of the diner for it. It's fantastic.
Yeah, like these are the little tiny moments you feel like a movie like this might not pay attention to, but I think Huston makes a really, really like deliberate effort to be like every character, even if they're only on screen for like 10 or 15 minutes of this movie, they have enough little moments like this happening all the time that you care about the humanity of these criminals, which is something that, you know, sounds really simple and we see it all the time, but again, at the time, even the studio head was being like, what the fuck is this character writing? This is who
There's
cares
too
about
much
these
nuance.
bums? You know, was that, you know?
I love to.
I want to know more about this $1 million that they're stealing. Maybe we make a movie about that.
One of my favorite moments that is like just, I think, so full of like kind of he's questioning it, but there is like some real love and connection there, is when Dix is trying to kind of resist what's his girlfriend's
Doll.
name? Doll.
Calls her Doll.
He's trying to resist her because she keeps insisting that she's going to join him and on this kind of this.
Well,
this
she's just
bad
mad, you know, in love with him essentially. And Sterling Hayden is like, I can't be loved by this woman.
The only thing I love is the horses and the farm.
The meadow. Yeah, I love though when he goes like he looks at her and he's like, I don't get it, and then there's kind of this pause. And he just goes, all right, get your things packed. It's like he just kind of finally accepts that somebody loves him. But there is like a humility to him being like why would you want to when I've gotten us in this kind of circumstance? But he still is just like, I'll give in then. I can't believe someone does, but hell yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. That moment is huge when she, like, the way that it's like framed too, of like her in the foreground looking towards the camera and then trying to turn around and be like, you know, directly at him and being like, I just want to be with you no matter what happens to you, essentially. And the fact that he just has to go, man, she is in love with me and I don't understand why, but okay. Come with me. And good thing, because she's fucking he passes out within like fucking a few blocks of getting out of the city, essentially, because he's been shot in the gut throughout the whole movie and has tended his own wound. So he's suffering from blood loss through this whole sort of manhunt section of the movie, while Doc is doing his own sort of solo escape plan.
What do you guys make of the German stuff in this movie? Because I didn't really know what to make of it after
just with the taxi driver.
Yeah, just considering what year this came out, was it just like, let's put him in this movie so that it's like you guys can be part of it again. Like you guys can be normal in this one.
Welcome back.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, because John Huston famously like fought in the war. I mean, a lot of these guys, obviously, all of these actors came back and did too. But he was also famous because he made, I think, 2 or 3 different documentary films during the war that were considered really, really grim depictions of like what the wartime period was like, and it was the opposite of like the propaganda of like, go help your fellow soldiers out, you know, and so they were suppressed. And so he had a lot of thoughts about the war, and it feels pretty specific that this was like a German immigrant driver. I mean, the book was also written in 1949 after the war too, so it wasn't like he inherited something from an older novel. So there's something interestingly specific about making this a German immigrant criminal mastermind, and then also making it the driver he connects with, and how they both, you know, because I was unsure. I thought the detail was meant to imply that these were people who fled to America.
Yeah, they would have had to have been, because Doc is because Doc was in jail for 7 years, so he would have missed like you know, the whole unpleasantness as
so I thought Doc especially feels like a stand-in for like the, you know, the sort of Jewish Germans and Austrians who fled to America, which obviously was all of those guys were directing Hollywood movies at this time too. So I'm sure Huston knew a dozen of these guys just at the studio he was at. And also this idea that like maybe that's why Doc can see all the angles, because at any given point he sees all the angles and he like knows exactly what to do, and like, but don't you put a dancing woman in front of him.
Yes, that's the downfall. A 25-year-old dancing.
She's a pretty good dancer. I don't know. I can see it. He was just impressed.
It is unbelievable to have him be the most wise, the most calculated, the most just experienced, and then it's just like,
and then Sorcerer happens to him. The ending of Sorcerer.
God damn it. It's so funny.
The fact that it's just because he's there for like one extra song, just long enough that two beat cops just go up and go, "Who's the German guy with a big bag in there?"
I will say there is a great shot of how they reveal that, where they kind of follow the girl as she's dancing, and then she goes out of frame, and it shows the cops looking into the window.
Yeah, it's a great shot.
Yeah,
That's
it's so
awesome.
cool.
But yeah, this definitely made me laugh. I'm like, oh, Doc, come on, man, you were so close.
You were so fucking close.
I do love
Because
this
he's also the
detail.
only one who lives, though, right?
I think, yeah, he gets
I
arrested,
think-
but he does live. I
Doesn't
suppose.
Gus live? Gus lives
Oh,
too. And,
yeah, they go to- they both
Oh,
go to
yeah, yeah. He
jail.
just gets arrested. Yeah, that's true.
I think, yeah, everyone is either going to jail to rot or dies. That's kind of, I guess, the what happens to everybody.
Because
But I
Emmerich
do-
and Louis and definitely die.
yeah.
And then Hayden, obviously, we'll get to this. Hayden dies. And there's another character in there tee, right? I can't remember.
I do like this is right before they leave with everything and everyone is either arrested or dies, but I do like when Dick's kind of he refuses the gems because he couldn't even sell them, like he doesn't know how to begin with.
That
I
whole
love
scene
that.
is so adorable when Doc and Dix are kind of sizing each other up on what they're going to do, and the fact that he offers him the jewels and he's just like, no one, a big blonde farm boy with jewels, like who's going to buy that shit off me? And then he turns
me walking into a hawk shop and trying to sell those bad boys.
yeah. It's so good. But at the same time, he goes, but you can have the cash to, like, make your escape. And I don't know, at some point, if you want to pay me back, whatever, just write me a letter or something. I don't know. And then, but then in the reverse, Doc turns down taking a gun from him. Because he goes, he's a weird fella, that that Doc, like, not wanting to have an American gun to protect himself, but he basically describes it as a natural de-escalator, so that when he gets into an altercation with cops, the reason he'll never be killed like the rest of them is because he doesn't carry one.
Yeah.
And he goes, yeah, that's a little bit of old man wisdom right there.
Yeah.
There's just those there's some great moments that reveal character that aren't just on the nose. They're just kind of like how they interact with each other, that I think is really smart.
Everyone's a three-dimensional, very, like, everyone, you care about everyone, you love everyone.
Yeah.
Like, I loved when after Louis got shot and Gus is bringing him to the car, and Louis is like, take me home, and Gus is like, I know, I'm taking you, there's this doctor I can take you to, and he's like, Gus, take me home now. And I'm like, oh, he just wants to, like, he knows he's like gut shot and he's like out of here.
Yeah,
and
just wants to be with the fam.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, all those details are amazing. And then I guess we've already talked about it, but this is when they kind of have that cop wrap up. But there is like a real, like, he is being just kind of ruthless in a way, and with his language, where he's like, a man without human feeling or human mercy.
Yeah.
And that's how they present it, even though it is kind of supposed to be this.
Well, because you can see how written and how he pitched shooting this. It's just like, well, yeah, this is the moment where they go, hey, crime doesn't pay. Look at all this. That rant he goes on where he's like, people are being cheated, robbed, murdered, raped. And that goes on 24 hours a day, every day in the year. And that's not exceptional. That's usual. And he's basically that's why he feels he needs to be, more cutthroat than, like, the lieutenants beneath him who he feels are being corrupt and not getting the job done. And he's basically being like, I'm going to win this, like, war on crime, essentially. And because if he doesn't, then the jungle wins and the predatory beasts take over. And he's describing these people who we just spent enough time with to be like, no, those were kind of real people who were just trying to, like, make a go at life. I don't know.
Yeah, he says of Sterling Hayden, he's like, and that last one, who, by the way, is the most dangerous because he's a hooligan. He has no human feeling. He has no emotion. He's a killer and he's evil. And then it cuts to Sterling Hayden, like, crying, driving to the, like, into the
deliriously, half-consciously, still bleeding out, driving onto his family farm, trying to be like, if Pa just hangs on to that black colt, everything's gonna be okay.
Fine. Yeah, it's like, oh my god, dude.
And
it's
then
like, fuck that cop, dude. Let's get rid of him. Yeah.
And then to actually have, like, the ending shot be all the horses surround him and kind of sniff him, and, like, it just
he's just
feels,
collapsing, like, in the pasture.
It's like he made it, but, like, he got, like, one glimpse of his dream, and then it was just over. And it's I mean, it's obviously incredibly depressing, but you do feel, because of that journey you have, and you grow to care about every character, but specifically Dick's here, it's like you feel good for that moment, that second that he had on his property again or whatever it was, and
Yeah.
you know, he got to experience it at least for a second.
Yeah. R.I.P.
It's great
now.
stuff.
But it's also just so sad.
Yeah.
So sad because
Yeah.
you are
Yeah.
like, and that's why I think it's really cool that he gives you the exact kind of code ending a movie like this is supposed to give you, but it doesn't at all feel that way. You are just
Right.
like, damn, those cops were pretty fucking ruthless to these just like guys who were trying to survive in this crazy jungle, this crazy
Yeah.
asphalt jungle,
This
as the
damn
title
crazy
says.
world.
But yeah, we're pivoting towards reductive rating on this one. This was a very, very high 4 for me on a first watch, but I think I'm going to come back to this one again at some point because I do think that it being the kind of prototype for so many other films that I do 5, like something like Rafifi, which I absolutely love, and obviously some of the heist films that would, you know, go basically the next fucking 30 or 40 years of them feel like they owe a lot to what's happening here in terms of the way it navigates the ensemble character work, the sort of heist noir kind of procedure of it, and especially just depicting criminals as these like working class professionals, these lonely guys trying to just make a living in this like corrupt network essentially of all these money men and ruthless cops and this kind of stuff. And I do think Huston does a really, really good job of translating this pulpy procedurals or crime thriller material and really paying attention to the memorable sort of eccentric characterization aspect while also not going so far in that direction that it still doesn't have like that tough economical kind of noir quality you love out of a movie like this. And I do really think it's just hard not to have your heart broken by the relationships in this movie, which was something I didn't expect of it because of just, I don't know, I guess maybe I had Treasure of Sierra in my mind. And like, I mean, I guess that, you know, that's a pretty hardcore tragedy as well, but it just doesn't, like, those guys are all so greedy and ruthless to each other that they kind of act hateful towards each other in a way. And in this one, I was kind of like, man, these guys were just, if just the one corrupt lawyer didn't make that one choice that screwed them all.
Yeah.
And then somehow it circles back around to making you kind of feel bad for the lawyer too. So I was like, it's really, really effective character work, and obviously the tense and efficient planning and execution of the actual heist sequences is really well done. I was just really impressed, I thought, with, as this went on, how much of like a depressed manhunt aftermath kind of movie this was, and how bad you feel about these little tiny details and coincidences that essentially result in the downfall of these people. And whether it was like the sweaty bookie or the stray cat loving getaway driver or like the, you know, I think the dirty cop is the only one I don't feel anything for.
Yeah.
But you know, a double crossing lawyer or his mistress in Marilyn Monroe, like I got just enough of their personal lives and motivations, and through the performances, I think, by obviously Sterling Hayden here and Sam Jaffe and Marilyn Monroe, and I don't know, I really, really felt this movie by the end of it, and I thought it was really well done.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think this is incredibly strong. I'd also give it a 4, and I'll be going back to it. For me, I think it is like with these heist movies, especially with the ones that we've been covering lately, they were hyper focused on that procedural element. And this heist sequence is fun and I enjoy it, but it's just something within me that wishes it was like 20 minutes longer and every single little detail was.
You got to go to France for that shit, buddy.
Yeah, exactly. But that being said, it's incredible, and I do love the focus of more about its characters and kind of their forced circumstances. And it doesn't, like, his style, Huston's, is not, it doesn't show off. It really just helps every single thing he does. There are moments that really like kind of guide you through his filmmaking, but it always feels like it's focused on the characters and every kind of crossover, you know, conversation or interaction that they have. And it just brings such a nuance and kind of a 3 dimensions to every single character. And I love that they all have this, like you were saying, Josh, with a lot, there can be this cutthroat thing with some of the heist movies, but with these characters, even though they do have a survival instinct, in them that still has them make certain decisions that might be selfish. There's still a mutual understanding that they all have that I really like. And I just love every eccentric detail in every single character. And I do mean every character. No matter if they only have a few lines, it does feel like there's something more behind them, just the way that they get to express themselves.
Yeah,
in that
even
short
the
time.
throwaway like wife character who wouldn't get anything in a movie like this, your heart totally breaks for her when you get to that funeral scene.
Yeah. And even those jumping moments too, like how we said it's like the first time you see her, it's in the bed with the baby and she's got the family life, and then the second time it's when the husband's shot and she's very she's worried about him, and she's really kind of saying fuck these police with the sirens being like the soul trapped in hell or whatever. And then the next time you see her, she's in the funeral. So it just feels as if like it was just kind of like this doomed thing for her character, but there's still enough that you just feel for her, and it still feels like there's nuance there. So yeah, the writing is incredible. I think the direction again is just really intelligent and reserved in a very good way. So yeah, great stuff.
For you,
I think I'm giving this one a 5. I think I'll pop a 5 on this one.
Hell yeah.
It's just very athletic to me. It's very lean and athletic, but it has a heart, Marilyn Monroe is so beautiful. So beautiful.
It's distracting, actually.
Yeah, it is distracting. I think according to a TCM host, Eddie Muller, the John Huston quote about Marilyn Monroe in this movie is that she's the only person I've ever met who can make an entrance by leaving a room.
So good.
What a horn dog.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's a crazy quote.
That's wild. I think he said that's also why he like hired her for the role and everything too. It's just wild shit. Amazing.
But yeah, just this it's just like a perfect film, it's like UR-FILM basically. It's the fertile ground from which every Michael Mann movie springs. And I think and all of the French kind of 60s the Melville stuff. But it really has its own identity and is really like, all these characters that you love to follow around, and just like, again, it's the element of like, at any given moment, you look at what they're doing, at what the situation is, and you can think, there's like a way you can think, okay, things aren't actually going that bad, like after they do the heist, Louis gets shot. It's like, okay, one guy is shot, but they're taking him to a doctor. It's not that bad. And then like we're going to get this insurance money in like 24 hours. We can make it. We still have the diamonds. Everything is, we're hidden at Eddie's place in Eddie's neighborhood. I love the character Eddie, who they go to, is like, I'm so sorry, I just saw your face in the newspaper, can you please leave my apartment? But yeah, it's just that like everything seems like, it's they can still turn it around, at any given moment. You have the feeling like they can still turn it around, and then of course they can't. And it's just heartbreaking and tragic. But I love this movie. I love everyone in it, and I love movies, and I love
yeah. Hell yeah.
I thought you were gonna go on a John Huston. I thought you were gonna go on the like
I love John Huston and all of his family members,
and Sterling Hayden. Start going looking through the crew list. I have Harold Rawson, who's cinematographer here. By the way, apparently the guy who shot Wizard of Oz and Singing in the Rain. So Huston. Yeah, so Huston definitely was like, okay, you need to tone your shit down for my movie. So it's a deliberate choice. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up there, though, for the Asphalt Jungle. Stick around, though. We're going to be right back, and we're going to be talking about active violence. All right, we are back and we are talking Act of Violence, the 1949 film noir directed by Fred Zinneman, written by Robert L. Richards and Collier Young, technically, who contributed the story, and starring Van Heflin and Janet Leigh as a husband and wife, Frank and Edith Enley, living in California shortly after the end of World War II, where he was a tortured prisoner of war, and Robert Ryan co-stars as his sort of disgruntled former best friend Joe, and someone who fought in the war alongside him, who has some pretty dark secrets about how Frank survived over there at the expense of his comrades. This is our third time talking about Fred Zinneman, and technically fourth movie, I guess now, the sort of Austro-Hungarian born Hollywood filmmaker who got his career started working as a cameraman, actually, in the German film industry before getting kind of fed up, honestly, with the kinds of lavish silent era movies that were being made, and weirdly kind of rejecting the expressionists and wanting to be more of like a proto neo-realist style filmmaker. And he worked on that experimental silent film People on Sunday that he helped shoot, where he met Edgar G. Ulmer and Billy Wilder, among a few others. And it led to him doing, as we were sort of alluding to actually in the last film, like moving to the US in the 1930s, where he would make his first sort of narrative feature, the first one called Reddies, which actually you might have seen in the Martin Scorsese Criterion Cinema World Cinema Project box or whatever, called The Wave. It's like this political docu-fiction film that uses non-actors and real locations and these sort of unionized Mexican fishermen who are essentially organizing and resisting their boss and the sort of corrupt politicians who keep their wages low and all that kind of stuff. And it just has lots of gorgeously shot fishing sequences of them on the job, which I thought about during this because there's a fishing sequence in this. And I was just like, it's not quite... doesn't quite have the cross-cutting of like a union leader assassination sequence cut together with like splices of gold coins and like political campaign posters and like military boots. Almost got like some Eisenstein kind of stuff going on in that film. But that was where he got started before eventually trying to make his way into the Hollywood studio system. And, you know, he would apply some of the style techniques he learned to, you know, in Germany and making experimental films into dramas and sort of war films and all that kind of stuff. Obviously, he would become sort of a pretty well-known Hollywood filmmaker just because obviously he did the classic Western High Noon from 1952. He would eventually go back to the lavishness I think he rejected with last time we were talking with Will about the 1940s Broadway musical hit Oklahoma that he adapted in 1955, which may be the
Oklahoma,
weirdest one of all the ones.
Goes sweeping down the plain.
I do remember that one narratively having some of the darkest things that were still painted as like incredibly, you know, sunshiny and happy.
There's a song where a guy cheerfully sings about making the guy like commit suicide or something.
Yeah, exactly. That one was just wild when I was watching it. Yeah, it's so interesting.
Yeah, but he just had a really diverse career because like, you think about High Noon, which has that very sort of Stanley Kramer-esque sort of message movie kind of drama component to it, but it is very sturdily crafted, obviously very well acted by Gary Koopa. And also... the last time we talked about him, obviously, we talked about him going all the way into the 1970s New Hollywood era, where he did that procedural docu-fiction adaptation of Forsyth's political assassination thriller novel, The Day of the Jackal, in 1973 as well. So I was like, this guy morphed with whatever the trends of the time were and typically made a pretty good movie out of it each time. And so Act of Violence comes out. It's one of his first real big Hollywood productions where he kind of felt like he was finding his footing in that system. And as I mentioned, it was also an MGM movie right before ASPHALT Jungle, and it was literally they were making the move from being like, everyone knows us for the lavish MGM musical, the colorful musicals. We want to make Warner's crime films, but our version of them. So that's why they bought the script. They actually acquired it from Uda Lupino's husband, who I guess had planned to make this movie together at some point. Instead, I guess they made The Hitchhiker.
Great film.
Because it's a fantastic film, and you can see exactly where like they were like, we had, you know, guys at gunpoint sweating and just being angry at each other. Like, you know, but because they originally, I guess, wrote this as kind of like a dark, small, sort of independent post-war drama, essentially. And then when MGM bought it, that was when it turned into like a star vehicle. And it was like, they were looking at names like, again, Gregory Peck, Humphrey Bogart was someone that they were considering for this. So we're talking about the two movies that maybe Humphrey Bogart could have been in, or the studio was being like, we want a Humphrey Bogart picture, but we need to make like the B version of it. And so instead we have Act of Violence, which I had never seen and I thought was quite solid and reminded me a lot in terms of like a tough guy two-hander, in terms of I thought about like Cape Fear. I thought about like a guy coming back and being like, I'm going to drag your life back to what it is supposed to be, and I have that vengeance against you. But I think also, similarly to Asphalt Jungle, just pays more attention to the character work and the characters even on the margins, and especially a lot of the sort of women characters in this film, which is something that you might not expect of a macho premise like this, of like two guys, you know, going at each other.
In fact, like the women are the kind of voice of reason throughout this, and you know, I feel like we've seen movies where that is the case, but again, they're on the sidelines more so, and there are just like, you can also tell that these men respect their wives. They're both married, I believe, in the
a little.
Well, in the sense, I just mean in the sense that they actually listen to them while it's happening, and then their emotions
the
kind of
movie does
overtake.
spend the time to be like, here are the husbands hearing them out. But they are definitely.
But they're on a mission. That's for sure.
Yeah, they're on a mission
Joe.
to like not do anything that they actually say for a large portion of the runtime.
He's like a Terminator. It's literally it's a Terminator movie. Like,
I mean, I love the way that it opens, just having this like the dark city, and he's walking into a building with a limp. So there's already these implications that it's either something that he just went through, or, you know, it's obvious that he's been involved in some kind of violence. And just for him to go into the drawer, get the hidden gun, you get the title card right there. So you're just
and
like,
no opening credits at all in this movie.
It's awesome. It's so awesome. So you know exactly where like the most basic premise lies, which is that he is after somebody, or he needs protection, or whatever it is. And it
is quite the hook to just be like, Robert Ryan with a gun and a limp walking through New York City. And where's he going? What's he doing?
And it also has that whole idea, like what they're going to present to you for the rest of the movie, which is a lot of actual shots of LA. And so you're going to like just him going into the darkness, and you can see the entire cityscape over the hill and everything. It's so cool the way they present everything. They really capture the mood right away.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, and the kind of I love the next shot in the movie where he arrives at Santa Lisa, this kind of idyllic California like suburban town that's kind of like a perfect American city, and it's, you know, the middle of the day, it's bright out, it's beautiful, and there's a Memorial Day parade going on, and as the like people are marching in the parade, Robert Ryan is like limping parallel limping like perpendicularly to them, like crossing through the parade, like unfazed by it. It's such like a beautiful visual metaphor for like, you know, there are all these troops celebrating, and like, you know, like this celebration of war and of troops, and he is going completely against the current and not marching but limping because of
the
injury.
Actual World War II veteran.
Exactly.
I love the technicality of it too. It's almost like they choreographed the timing, because when he limps past them, it's like the last dude barely doesn't hit his foot, and it just feels so purposeful. I loved that too. And again, like having an actual, you know, a big street, the parade rolling by, it just creates this larger scale, strangely enough, because we're going to get so small when it comes to who we're really focused on, which is just these two characters with a past. But a lot of the time they're still running through like tunnels and under bridges and going past a parade or whatever it is. It still feels like there's a large thing around them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love the contrast of just having a giant, Robert Ryan in his big like trench coat and hat. He's playing this guy Joe Parkson, I think is his name. And this is, a lot of people know Robert Ryan, I think now for like The Wild Bunch and like The Dirty Dozen and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. But this was an awesome follow-up for, if anyone hasn't seen it, for the movie The Setup that he's in by Robert Wise, the like boxing noir. So I was totally prepared. Yeah. Because he's like he's a sad character in that movie, but he's kind of like a physical tank in that movie, and the way that he operates and how it feels like he moves in a very sort of similarly deliberate way, but he's obviously very hurt and very traumatized, and channeling that into something what we're going to see is pretty awful, targeted at his, again, former best friend Frank here, played by Van Heflin, who I have not actually seen in much outside of like Westerns, like Shane and 3:10 to Yuma and stuff like that.
He's the dad in Shane, I think, is what I recognize him most from.
He's also in an underrated Phil Carlson Western called Gunman's Walk, which is like a really sad, like family, sort of generational, fathers and sons kind of Western. It's really good. And these two, like one guy is clearly going for the other guy, but I like the way that Robert Ryan is used as a physical presence to disrupt the idyllic small town imagery that you're seeing. Like the way that the imagery of like suburban domesticity is seen as something, quite on its surface, it's quite bright, it's quite cheery, and just the infiltration of the Robert Ryan character in the sense that he is haunting them in some kind of way, and he's coming back to remind him of something. I think that imagery really infects the movie, because how idyllic those opening scenes are, it almost goes as far to be like, Frank is like the most beloved contractor in town, and everyone is like, they're practically feel like they're throwing him a parade.
Yeah, they're having a meeting to be like, he's in the newspaper for like being
he's
a good contractor.
He's the best guy. We love Frank. Everyone looks up to him like the way they look at like Jimmy Stewart and It's a Wonderful Life or something like that.
Yeah,
like that's the vibe he has in this town, and that's why it's painful when, as he's enjoying his sort of new life of going on fishing trips with the neighbor, and it is the arrival of Joe and just the subtle ways that he starts creeping on those imagery, hiding a gun underneath his coat while he goes and knocks on the door and it's answered by his wife, or renting a car and following him to the lake that he's fishing on. And even the idyllic shots of these guys just fishing and having a good time, and you just get like that long shot of Robert Ryan sitting in a boat kind of like over his shoulder as he's cocking his gun while he waits, and he's literally like behind a rock, like Wile E. Coyote, waiting for him to get closer to him so he can like shoot him.
I love The Rock.
The classic curve where he's going right towards him. You're like, oh my God, he's going to shoot him. He's going to shoot him. And he just goes right.
And then he swerves.
He just swerves right. That's it. He's like, oh man, my perfect plan.
Totally
foiled.
Destroyed. Yeah.
I also love that kind of is symbolic of the fact there's a lot of stuff about how about Robert Ryan's limp. That's kind of like it when he gets a boat and goes out there on the water to kind of track down Van Heflin.
It's arduous, right?
Yeah, because he has oars, but Van Heflin has a motor on his boat. So it's kind of like, he's like, I've got him now. But then Van Heflin turns on the motor and he's just like leaves him in the dust. And he's like, oh, God damn it. And I love when he's drinking beers with... the guy at the...
And Robert Ryan's just in the background.
Yeah, he's in the background slow, like it's like It Follows, basically.
It does kind of...
It's like if the Terminator was like rowing towards you instead of like running at you.
It's so fucking cool. I love it.
It does kind of operate eventually as like you're looking out for Joe. Just where is he? Where is he going to pop up and screw Frank over? I love too the simplicity of how he gets to Frank a lot of the time, where it's like he has the shot where he goes into the hotel right before the fishing moment, and all he does is just look into a phone book and he circles the couple Frank Enleys, and he's just like, these are the addresses I need to go to, and that's how he finds them. And there's a bunch of moments too throughout the film actually, before they confront each other, where he just goes up to people and he's just like, have you heard of Frank Enley? And they're like, oh yeah, Frank, he's right over here, don't worry about it. He's at, like, there's such a trust within the community, I feel like, that Joe can kind of honestly take advantage of a little bit. And because everyone has this, like, everyone just trusts each other. So why would someone be looking for Frank to kill him? You know?
Yeah.
It happens multiple times, including his wife, actually. Even when he goes to the house, he's kind of like, is your husband there? And she's like, no, he's actually fishing.
Yeah, played by a very young Janet Leigh, by the way.
Janet Leigh is fantastic in this. I love.
Yeah, she's really good.
The character of the wife is like this. My favorite element of this movie is probably Van Heflin and the wife's relationship and how it changes throughout the movie. Because, like at the beginning, he's about to go fishing. He's looking for his fishing gear, and Janet Leigh is like making fun of him, is like ribbing him, like, "Oh, the great big outdoorsman, you can't even find your fishing pole. Like, you're so useless sometimes." And like he's like, "Oh, you goofball." And I love this little detail where she's like, "It's so chilly. Why don't you wear your old army jacket?" And he refuses to take it and refuses to wear it. And it's because he can't stand to wear it anymore because of events in the past.
And then she takes it and goes and puts it in the car for him, right?
Yeah. And but like this relationship and how she feels so comfortable with him that she's like ribbing on him and making fun of him and like, you know, trying to do this his girl Friday type thing with him, you know?
Yeah.
But he is, by the end of the movie, they are just so battered and like torn down, and she's like, oh my god, he actually is pathetic. Like he actually is as pathetic as all of the jokes I've been making, so I can never make those jokes again. Like,
which also humanizes him for her, and is kind of like, because in that scene she does say that she's kind of put him on a pedestal the entire time, and this was something that actually I don't know if she says it exactly like love him more, but it's almost like it's easier for her to love him because now she doesn't see him as just like this, whatever she's claimed to before. It just seemed like this strong.
Well, he was a hero of the community,
hero.
And now he's a flawed dude.
Right, exactly. But she's like
very flawed dude.
Very flawed. Let's say very, very flawed.
And that kind of reminded me though too of like the just again the understanding of and love that these characters kind of have for each other, similar to at least in certain moments of the Asphalt Jungle. It's just like there is a lot more nuance to them, and even their kind of imperfections really work romantically a lot of the time, and in a very dark and sad way, of course, because once we get to the details here, it's a pretty harrowing story of the past. But
oh my god, the way that they describe the events of the past are like, I was like, when was this movie made? This is crazy. That they were allowed to just say stuff like this. Like,
this is how you can tell in the writing that it started as like a more independent project that someone was making. Like so many post-war noirs, obviously. The subtext of almost all of them in some way is that like the brutal detective of some kind was affected by the events that happened in the war, and he's brought that back with him, and it's maybe why he's good at the work that he does over here and how he brings that to the streets and like this kind of stuff. And this one just goes, what's subtext?
Yeah, literally.
There is no subtext. This is like a World War II traumatized veteran is going Terminator mode on another one who betrayed him to the Nazis. And obviously you don't know that for a good point. You know that there must be something pretty serious, that Robert Ryan has to hate this guy. But I think one of the genius decisions of this movie that I think Zinneman makes, and script makes in some ways too, but I think that Zinneman really heightens it with how he directs some of the sequences, is how you are designed in a movie like this, because it's a thriller, it's a pulp thriller. You're designed to sympathize with the scared and confused characters, with the wife and the husband who are like, why is there a man with a limp and a gun asking around town about me? Why is he following me around? And obviously the husband character, Frank, here has some idea on why this is, but he's being very cagey about, what it is. And instead he's wordlessly just being like, every light, every phone call, every window being open is spooking him. And obviously Janet Leigh can pick up on this. And my favorite example is the choice of lighting and sound design in the scene where Leigh is fixing him a sort of late night dinner in the kitchen.
Oh my god, one of my favorite scenes.
She can tell that he's acting odd and doesn't know exactly why. But suddenly when the doorbell rings and he jumps and he flicks the lights off, and all you can hear in the sound design is the running sink from the dishes that she was doing, because he had been very stern to her and like shut her down and been like, I just want a quiet night at home with my wife making me dinner, and like, you know, like that kind of shit. All you hear is the running sink, and you hear the scrapes of Robert Ryan's limping footsteps as he creeps around outside, and like the fucking raptors in Jurassic Park, he's like testing the fucking doorknob, being like, oh, it's locked, I can't get in.
And it's like so cool.
And it's such a great just like stalker horror bit of filmmaking vocabulary that immediately makes you incredibly scared of the Robert Ryan character and incredibly empathetic towards these domestic characters who feel like their lives are under threat, that there's some sort of evil home invasion taking place. And then the genius, I think, of that choice is that the script obviously flips that on its head when you find out exactly what it is, why he's doing this, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe this guy should break in and murder this guy. I don't know.
Truly. And I love it's like the poetic justice of like him being like escaping from the war, and then like he escapes from the war and then lives this perfect suburban idyllic life, and now he's trapped in his house as something from outside this perfect suburban idyllic life is like trying to break into the perfect home that he has. Also their kid Georgie, some of his screams are like, you know, Fred Zinneman was like punching this kid in the throat or something, like, because this kid's screams sometimes are like,
make that baby cry.
yeah. Nine, not loud enough.
I do love that detail right before Joe kind of confronts Lee, where in the kitchen he's Frank is taking down all of the curtains at like almost whenever Janet turns her back. And so he's still trying to almost hide her from it. But at this point, it feels like his fear just cannot do that. Like, I mean, it's obviously happening. But what I like too, in contrast, like the moment after that, where it's the morning and he's kind of left to escape and hopefully, you know, lead him somewhere else and get her out of danger and also just get himself out of danger. She sees him,
which by the way, he does by going to a work convention in LA, which I thought was a very funny detail. He just leaves a note like, going on a work trip. See you later. Sorry about like the weird, crazy, unhinged stalker guy who I basically told you I think intends to be violent towards us in some way, but we'll get around to him.
But like he explains to her like he's just crazy. The war drove him insane, so now he's insane and now he's hunting me.
Yeah, there are things you wouldn't understand about the war. Hell, I don't understand some of them myself.
Yeah. But I love that Janet Leigh confronts him. Like there is this thing about her that shows kind of a strength and confidence where as soon as she sees him, after it's been established that he could be a real danger. I mean, her husband who has been in the war is afraid of him. So, but she just confronts him. She's like goes right to him on the lawn and is kind of like, you know, get out of here. But it does eventually, it feels a little bit more threatening to her, of course. But it just shows a lot about her character and her kind of care for her husband and I guess her household in a way.
Yeah. And that's one of the scenes where she confronts him. That's one of the scenes where we get some of the beautiful descriptions of what happened in the war, where she's like, my husband told me all about you. He told me everything that happened over there. And like, why don't you just leave him alone? And he's like, your husband told you everything that happened there? Did your husband tell you about the names, all these guys' names? Like they had wives and kids too. One of them, he was so annoying with the picture of them that he like was showing it to everyone. It was so fucking annoying. When they found the picture eventually, and it was so soaked through with blood, you couldn't tell what it was a picture of anymore. And he's like, he's like, they left the men out there screaming and moaning all night. By the end, they didn't even sound human. They sounded like a dog who was hit by a truck and left on the road. And it's like, Jesus Christ.
His disdain for Frank too, excuse me. His disdain for Frank too is unreal. Like when the wife starts to cry because of her hearing this truth for the first time, but also still wrestling with whether she should trust him or not. He's just like, he isn't worth it. And then just leaves. Like, it's just this... It's not just, you know, this retribution. He has like a deep deep hatred for him because of his connection to what actually
especially
happened.
Because of where he lives and who his wife is.
Yeah.
And I mean, I love Robert Ryan just walking around his house and being like, nice life he's got.
Yeah.
You know, looking at his wife and kid and,
all through
you know,
a
being
lie
like,
kind of thing.
yeah, this is what, you know, my life doesn't look like this. And it's because of, him. And I mean, Frank even almost says as much himself. He's like, you don't know what made him the way he is, and I do.
Yeah.
And these details, the full details are explained when she eventually goes to confront him at the actual sort of like work convention that he's at, where he goes through the fact that, look, we were in this POW camp, we were going mad, we were going hungry, and Joe essentially told him that he and his men had dug a tunnel and they were going to make an escape, which he thought would fail due to what he says are sort of previous attempts that he's seen where basically all the guys didn't make it and they were killed. And so instead, ahead of that happening, he makes a deal with an SS officer to turn them in if, as he puts it, they promise to go easy on them, which obviously they just don't do. Instead, they just lay a trap, they massacre them, bayonet them, set dogs on them, and make sure that they died horribly slowly and painfully.
They didn't shoot him afterwards. They just left him out there, basically, is what they said.
God, and that whole sequence of just Frank telling that to Janet Leigh and some of the blocking in that scene of him staring into the distance, her over his shoulder, the way that he sort of turns away from her as he's confessing some of these details he can't even bring himself, the way that he turns away from the camera to talk about some of them because he can't even have us, like, he can't even look face to face or look into the light and all of this, and the way that he just keeps seemingly moving away from her and the camera, and she keeps finding ways to circle around it and get to him, and he just can't even, he doesn't understand why she's even still asking him about it, because I mean, he has a lot of self-loathing over it too, like the fact that he goes like, you didn't mean to do it, you had reasons, and he's like, you can always find reasons, the Nazis had reasons.
Yes, I love that line where he's like, even the Nazis had reasons, and she keeps trying to be like, trying to just
that's not that bad, honey.
Okay, like it's like,
and then he gets so mad that he eventually like twists the blade and he goes, look, the way it is, they were dead and I was eating, and maybe that's what I did it for. Like maybe that's all there is to this.
And it's so important too that they don't do any kind of flashback or even a fade or anything like that, and just lock in on his sadness and guilt. And it's that first time too, because he's been hiding it for so long, that it feels like when she does kind of say, I'm here to support you, he's like, you know what? I don't want that at all. I think it's like,
you'd rather have that out lie. And I hate it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he'd rather have that lie. And as soon as now the truth is revealed, he's like, I don't want to live in that anymore. Like, you shouldn't even look at me the same way. And again, like you said, Josh, the Nazis gave me food and I ate it. They were dead and I was eating is just a great line. And it also connects really deeply to Joe seeing his new life and having that same feeling, but on Joe's side, where Frank was thinking like, oh, I get to sustain my life and I'm still eating, even if it's with the Nazis. Yes. And then Joe sees his great life that he's had because he got to do that and survive and everything. So it's really great. And also just the use of shadow and the cityscape in the background of the staircase and everything.
Yes. Oh my God, that set is amazing. I can picture I feel like I could draw it from memory right now, like the stairs, and you can see the city. Like it's like a fire escape / normal staircase, like weird thing.
It's like a really, really big fire escape.
Yeah.
which I guess as like some sort of convention center, maybe that makes sense. Maybe it's just a great location they found, but it is it
does look like expressionist almost. Like if it is a real location, they found the perfect way to frame it. And it's cool too, because when they start using, assuming this isn't a real location, when they start using real locations, it does feel very seamless when you have something like you see that cityscape for so long, and then he starts to run away and through the tunnels, and underneath that the trolley shot in the alleyway at a certain point is just incredible.
Oh yeah.
That was the section of the film I was the most like surprised about when I saw it, because I mean, this film, and we'll get to it builds to, I think, the kind of fatalistic macho sort of cat and mouse thriller noir like conclusion I think you expect of this setup. Like these two men are going to cathartically confront each other in some kind of capacity, and obviously they're going to deal with the fact that like one's a coward who is, you know, maybe he'll get one last opportunity to be brave, and one's a cold-hearted killer who maybe doesn't want to be the cold-hearted killer, or at least his girlfriend doesn't want him to be that. Like all of these, you know, kind of collapse into the mono confrontation between these guys.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at how much buildup there is to that section of the movie and what that buildup was. Like the fact that it is the like there's two characters who
Mary
get introduced
Astor.
sort of late in the movie. Yeah, Mary Astor as Pat, who is just, I think she's meant to be sort of like a barfly prostitute, possibly.
Yeah, like
who,
a woman of the night, a woman of ill repute, sort of, who, and I was reading, Mary Astor apparently was psyched that she got offered this role because she was like only playing mothers, like in every single movie. Like she's the mother in Little Women, which came out the same year as this, and Janet Leigh also in Little Women, I believe.
Right.
So it's kind of like a B process for Little Women. And apparently, like when they were filming this, she was like, she would be like filming Little Women. She'd be like, oh, fine. God, I fucking hate filming Little Women. And then she would go over to this movie and she wrote in her like diary, like, it's like going to a sauna. It's like going to a spa, like being this like seedy.
She's great.
Character.
Awesome.
Yeah. It's like,
she felt free doing it.
Yes, exactly. Like, and she's so fucking good in this movie. Like, and like,
she is
so much pathos, so much like, such an interesting character of like,
there's a whole side world introduced through her character of like the underground network that we were kind of feel like we were seeing in the Asphalt Jungle, where it's like, here's sort of a woman who knows how to navigate this sort of seedy world. She introduces him to a lawyer. The lawyer has a hooligan who is willing to commit an assassination for him. Like this is the section of the movie that I just couldn't believe how much time was spent on this like sad sack, self-pitying, am I gonna get drunk and am I going to consider killing this guy? Am I going to try to pay him off? And some of just the ways they found to shoot this stuff and tell this story and even have the actors interact with each other was just surprising to me. Like I couldn't believe the bit where he makes Mary Astor call him on the payphone and be like, look, I will hand over my business to you.
I'll give you $20,000 cash. Yeah.
Yes. And the way that she just goes, he's laughing and just puts the phone to his ear and you just hear Robert Ryan going,
yeah. Oh my God. I fucking love it. And she said, and then Robert Ryan says on the other line, on the other end, is he there? And he just picks up the receiver and puts it down.
And hangs it.
Yeah,
it's so good.
It's so like the way this, like the structure of this part of the movie is really what I love most about it, because like, it's Robert Ryan, or not Robert Ryan. Van Heflin has no agency whatsoever, and he's just getting taken for a ride because he's hammered and a sad sack and a loser and a coward. And he goes to this like place, and you know, Mary Astor is genuinely trying to help him, but all of these other characters are just like, you know, they just want his 20 grand that he has, and because he sees himself as like less than a person, Mary Astor starts to be like, all right, if you're not gonna like, you know, fall in love with me and we can run away or whatever, like at least give me $100 please, because it's like nothing to you. You have $20,000. Like like she gives up on him. It's so but
and is the one who puts him in contact obviously with like these seedier characters. I love that shot where she takes him to the bar to meet the lawyer, explain his situation, figure out a way out of this situation with the money that he's got, and they briefly, you know, he thinks that there's too many people kind of listening into their conversation in the bar, so they take him to a room for privacy, and just the shadow of the eavesdropping hooligan Johnny,
good boy Johnny.
just like the way that his shadow goes through the like under the crack in the door, and then it's actually on the door, and then the lawyer comes out and he's like, did you get all that? He's like, yeah, I got everything. And then bam, they are just like, we are here to, you know, if you need us to commit a murder for $10,000, we will do that. And then he has like a Dark Night of the Soul moment where he's like walking through a tunnel and like this dead-eyed stare, replaying the memories of the war in his head, just in sort of like the audio of it, so like a psychic space kind of moment.
Yeah.
And him convincing himself that it is morally justified to hire these guys to kill him, because you go, look, you killed 10 men already. What's one more?
Yeah.
And then he's screaming into the tunnel, "Don't do it, Joe!" And and Joe's having an entirely different subplot with his girlfriend Anne, played by Phyllis Thaxter, who has traveled from Santa Lisa to Santa Lisa and then to the city, back to the city to meet with him.
Yeah.
And basically trying to explain to him that, what, you're going to orphan his child and ruin the beautiful Janet Leigh's life? Like, how is that going to feel better for anybody in this scenario?
Yeah, I love when the two women meet each other, and Janet Leigh drops her purse and a gun falls out, and they're both staring at it, and they're both like, what the fuck is going on? What is this? Are these guys are fucking, this is crazy. These guys are crazy.
It's like a what am I doing here kind of situation, because I think Janet Leigh does say something like, I don't even know how to use this. It's just like she's been put in a circumstance where she feels the need to have it, but it's really
we've been put in a macho scenario where the guys shoot each other. I don't know. That's what we're supposed to do, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And it feels kind of, it's not like it's similar just in the sense it's like when Mary finds out that Frank is has a business worth 20 grand, and she has a look on her that's just like, what are you doing here? What could possibly be happening that we have run into each other kind of thing.
Also, a great comedic beat. One of my favorite, as he's walking into the bar with Mary Astor sitting in it, there are two hammered winos walking out of the bar, and they're having one of the funniest conversations I've ever heard in my life. Which, just for 1 second, I wrote it down. I'm telling you, I was there. You were not there. You were drunk. I was there. I was drunk, but I was there. Where? Where? It's like so.
Oh, that's amazing.
It's so fucking stupid. In this dark night of the soul, he's having
and then like the next thing you see is him like that stunt where he goes in front of the train. It looks like a real stunt. It looks like the guy just waits till the last second until that train gets close to him and he just jumps out of the way. And it is like honestly impressive. It's almost Buster Keaton levels kind of stuff.
Yeah, I almost forgot about that. And I just remembered too all that whole section where he's running through the alley after running out of the convention because he sees Robert Ryan feels like he's a foot taller than every single human being in that building, and he sees him and he's like, whoa, he's just trying to get out of there.
When he's hammered and his wife is calling him, like, he knows where you are, but he's like hammered in the bar and can't hear her over. It's so stressful. It's suspenseful. And then like Robert Ryan appears in the doorway and he is just massive. It really is like the Terminator. It's like Arnold Schwarzenegger as the Terminator, basically.
And this is he just starts losing it. Like there's one part where Pat wakes him up and it's like 4 p.m. because he's just been so exhausted and he's like been sleeping the whole day, and they say that they need to leave. I think this is he tells his wife that Joe is leaving town, I believe. So I think this is when Joe gets a call and is kind of informed where he is. So again, he's kind of closing in on him.
Well, and he's hired the guys to kill him. So he feels that like he has resolved the situation. Like he's not dead yet, but like Joe is soon going to be shot by the hooligan Johnny.
Good boy Johnny, who is the way he talks is so funny. He's like, "You're in a jam. This Joker's gonna give it to you. Come on, sucker."
Also, what a career this guy had. This guy was in Gun Crazy and Cry of the City as well. So we've talked about this guy a couple times. He must have just been in some small like supporting roles. Barry Kroger playing Johnny. But yeah, it obviously does, though, build to, like we have the women trying to de-escalate this situation. You have Janet Leigh obviously trying to argue they should get the police involved or something like that, and him going no, because I'm gonna probably ruin my reputation in the city, or in the community at least. And then Anne is just like begging him, please don't go through with killing Frank, you're gonna regret it, there's no reason for this is just like a senseless continuation of violence, an act of violence perhaps. But yeah, so Frank, in just like a terrified drunken stupor and with a lot of suggestion by Johnny, hires him to meet Joe at the railway station in Santa Lisa to murder him for him, essentially. And when he wakes up, as Jamie, you were just alluding to, he obviously kind of regrets it, kind of plans to intercept the meeting, lying and telling Edith that it's all been over, it's already resolved. And, you know, Edith essentially just reiterates her love for him, despite all the faults and weaknesses that have shocked her, you know, about him. And he just kind of goes, you know, honestly, I think that's the moment, the moral clarity that he has, is when she goes, I still believe that despite all of these things that you've told me, that there's a good person in there who wants to do good things. Yeah. And he goes, shit, I just hired that guy's death. And so he makes her go check on the baby so he can slip out the door. I gotta go, honey, you've reminded me of something that I need to go get some milk from the store. And he immediately makes his way over to the railway station, just as Johnny and Joe do. And I gotta say, once again, love just the look and the sound design, the blowing wind, the screeching of the train in the background, Robert Ryan's figure coming out with the gun, obviously Johnny hanging out in a car parked without the lights on with a gun as well. And speaking of a crazy stunt, as you were saying, Jamie, when Frank steps out in front of that like sneaky gunshot that Johnny tries to take at Joe, takes the bullet for him, is, you know, final act of bravery he gets. But the fact that he jumps on the moving car until Johnny like crashes it into a pole and like catches on fire and shit, I was like, what a bizarre moment for a stunt.
And in a stunningly beautiful car crash like sequence, basically, like all the close-ups of like, you know, the engine like igniting, like the window just shattering, and like it's really like you know, the reflection of the fire, like the flickering light of the fire on his body on the ground. It's really like a beautiful, like explosive climax, kind of.
Yeah, it's also, I couldn't believe that it was as like violent as it really was. With that one shot is awesome, where I'm assuming it's like sped up footage where they have a stuntman hanging on the side, and when he crashes into the pole, he actually shows him flying off of the car and everything. And then when they cut back, you can see the body, like the burned body, still burning in the car and everything,
like in the driver's seat, right?
Which I was like, holy shit, I didn't expect that, to be honest. That was a little more violent than I thought a 1949 film was going to have, but it was pretty wild. And I also love that really subtle moment right before he does leave his wife, where they just relax for the first time in like how many days, we don't know, where he just reads the paper and he just tries to have like a silent moment in his living room with his wife before he actually does leave. I love that kind of that second.
Like, but like maybe I can still live this way.
Yeah, something.
No, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. I also love, you were mentioning, Josh, the kind of like the wind and the ambience of this scene. They use it a couple times.
There's almost like a Western standoff at night kind of framing to it.
Yeah, they use it a couple times in these very natural looking settings. So I imagine they had some type of wind machine to kind of get that going on film. But there are shots like in the boat scene, for instance, where I think that's just like a naturally rough kind of day. And I felt like that does build a tension in a sense, like something is just...
No, there's really good location shooting in this. Like, again, this guy came from like I want to make like neo-realist documentary shit in like the 1930s and 40s, right? Like, so
it's awesome. I just love it so much.
Yeah. And it ends with Robert Ryan. The whole town gathers around him, the body of, you know, the golden boy,
Frank.
The golden boy Frank. And there's someone in the crowd says, who's gonna tell his wife? And Robert Ryan's like, I'll tell her. And then him and his girl wander away and
into the crowd.
Yes, and then we get the credits for the movie.
As they keep walking too, which I love. I think eventually they freeze frame it, but they do spend some time where it just kind of shows them walking and going into hopefully a new and better life than what he's been so focused on for however long.
Well, and hey, look, he didn't lose his soul and demean himself in order to get the result that he wanted. So for Robert Ryan, it's like the Terminator just got to like watch the guy commit suicide, saving him, and was like, hey, that was pretty easy.
And there is nice to have that moment too, that it's like it kind of goes back to what the wife was saying, where he's proving his point to her in a way, or her point, which is that there is something good inside him, and him sacrificing himself for Joe is that one last thing. Although tragic, it does feel like an inevitable full circle for the character.
Even though in a drunken self-pitying stupor, he's the one who hired the guy to go and kill him too.
Yeah.
So
we've all blacked out,
Exactly.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
We've
got to
all
retrace what did I do last night?
Just have to put it all back together,
Jamie walking down the street and seeing Josh, like, Jamie, I have to warn you about something.
It's my bad, man. But I really did love this movie too. This was another just great one.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. We're pivoting towards reductive rating around. This was a very solid 4 for me. This was a very bleak, like I like B noirs, and I like the idea of taking the post-war stuff like as literally as this one does, and I you can tell the background that it came from like a darker independent production with how just extreme it goes with the details of the level of violence, and obviously this idea of this like idyllic suburban domestic imagery and community, and how sort of under direct threat it is, and how haunted it is by the recent atrocities and sort of barbarism that was experienced in the war, and sort of literalizing that in, again, a sort of a macho cat and mouse Robert Ryan's after Van Heflin. Like, it's a very pitchable idea. It's a very movie star noir idea. And it indulges in it, that it has the fatalistic shootout and the car stunts and the train stunts, and it does have extended sequences of Robert Ryan just chasing this man around like he's a Terminator, and like he's come back into his life Cape Fear style and doing stalker thriller home invasion stuff. And so it absolutely delivers all of that, but it doesn't lose the morality dilemma twist, I think, of the material, and how much that affects the emotions and the sort of psychology that the characters are dealing with. And obviously, again, spending so much time on, sort of the women characters in these guys' life, and the fact that they're trying to get them to focus on the reconstruction phase of, this is where we are now. Like, you could just build a new life. You don't have to go down this road of letting this haunt you forever and letting it define you. And these guys are like, no, we're on like a one-track path of someone's going to kill someone. And you kind of just have those two movies duking it out. And I think it's a really cool and like kind of thorny thing to watch unfold, because the flip of you sympathizing with these scared and confused characters being hunted because Robert Ryan is genuinely psychotic and scary and menacing, and shot, I think, incredibly well by both Zinneman here, but also Robert Surtees, by the way, who was the guy who shot The Graduate and The Sting and The Last Picture Show, father of Bruce Surtees, who was Don Siegel and Clint Eastwood's director of photography. He's just an incredible DOP. Period. And doing the on location like neo-realist stuff, but then also doing like some straight up really stylized expressionist noir stuff as well. And God, that confession scene in the fire escape I think about a lot. The fucking doorknob twisting and the sound design of the sink and all of that. Like, there's some really highly stylized thriller moments, but also some really, really, I think, well done just post-war psychology and drama in terms of the writing that it actually is paying attention to, and not just using as like a I guess you could say a cheap means to get to some violent action between these guys. So yeah, very solid 4 for me.
Yeah, me too. I love this. I do love its simplicity, but I do think that there's a lot of they still kind of bring some nuance. It's not as nuanced as Asphalt Jungle, but I would say that there's kind of some more. It might be more tense, just in the sense that it gives this. Things get worse and worse and worse, and it just feels like it gets more closed in as it goes. Whereas Asphalt Jungle purposely kind of gives you this push-pull effect, where you think they're going to get away with it, then something bad happens, and they think, oh, maybe I can get over on them again. But this one, it's just like a
this just has a guilt-ridden self-loathing to it the entire time.
Yeah, it just never lets up with that. And I love from the very beginning the focus of Joe. And his kind of Terminator kind of quality, but then for that to be ruined and kind of interrupted by Anne, who is his only connection to humanity, I think is a really strong thing to kind of throw in there. Same with the kind of on the opposite end with the wife, seeing him as like fallible instead of, and in turn more human, and kind of loves him more for it. It does, still end with him thinking he needs to kind of sacrifice himself, and I do feel like that kind of goes full circle with the character.
I mean, you can argue the idyllic way she views him is what inspires him to be like to go and fix that whole scenario, right? Like maybe Absolutely. I'm not as much of a shitty person because look at the way that this woman looks at me. I could be better.
I need to be the person that I want to be the person that she thinks I am deep down.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly.
And I mean, I think the direction is just incredibly strong, especially the mix of real locations that seamlessly go from set to the real locations, I think is great. I love that sequence where he's just running through different parts of LA. Again, that trolley shot is just really incredible when they cross all at the same time. I think is very cool. And there's also some surprising and awesome stunt work here and there, like the sidecar kind of chase. And then the jumping out of the way of the train at the last minute, honestly, was pretty nerve-wracking to watch that stuntman do that. So, really cool and unexpected things in here. So 4 out of 5.
Period. I'm going to agree. I'm also going to give it a 4 out of 5. I love this movie. I love the city at night sequence, because that's my favorite type of noir, is like just a classic like nighttime city, type movie. And I love that this one starts off not being that, and it slowly like the main character kind of Van Heflin kind of walks into a different noir that's going on, and kind of recruits these other noir characters to help him deal with the more daytime, more in the light of day noir that's going on in the form of Robert Ryan, like tracking him down. And I love just the Terminator nature of everything, and Janet Leigh gives like an incredible performance, and
shout out Mary Astor too.
Mary Astor.
Yet, God.
Incredible. Yeah, like all of these performances that are so good, and Robert Ryan is kind of smexy too in a weird way. But I do, I think this is a 4 out of 5 for me, for sure. A strong 4 out of 5.
Yeah, it is really cool to watch that main character meet someone. Josh, what was that character? It's a very sad ending to a character. She's an older character that has lived on the streets for a while. Was it like Pick Up on South Street?
Pick Up on South Street, the Sam Fuller film.
Mary's character kind of reminded me of like a younger version of that character.
For sure. I see that.
So for him to meet like that kind of noir as well, like you were saying, Hesse, it feels cool. Like it's a mix of things colliding a little bit in this film. So, very cool.
Yeah, and he's kind of like, damn, I don't want to be a part of this world the same way that Robert Ryan is. I want to go back to the small town shit, where I was just like a contractor and everyone loved me.
Yeah. That was way cooler. Yeah.
Where I have $20,000.
Yeah, but I think that's going to wrap it up for Act of Violence there and for this week's episode. That was once again the Asphalt Jungle from 1950 and Act of Violence from 1949. Thanks so much, Hesse, for joining us and for wrapping up Noirvember with us.
Oh my
fun.
God, it's truly an honor. Truly, I always love coming on, and it's an honor and a privilege.
Yeah, we always have the best time with you.
Yeah,
we do. What do you got going on in Seeking Derangements and like a movie mindset world that you want to tell the people about just before you head out?
Subscribe to Seeking Derangements. Movie Mindset. We will be coming back next March, I believe, for our next season, which everyone is super excited about. We've got we have some fun picks for that. But Seeking Derangements, we just released a cool video episode for Thanksgiving where the mother of the pod, Jamie, who is an older woman hairdresser who listens to our podcast and loves us, came on and helped us answer people's Thanksgiving family questions. So that was fun.
That's awesome.
And me and my friend Masha did an episode that was very silly, and it's mostly us doing characters and coming up with the ultimate play. So join us for that. Go on our Patreon, Seeking Derangements, and have fun, and also listen to Sleazoids, which is a great podcast.
Thank you.
I love that plug. I love that plug right there at the end. Anyone listening to this episode really, really needs that plug.
They need
I think.
They need to hear it. They need to hear it.
But speaking of which, we will be back for us in 1 week's time over on the Patreon, where we're going to be doing a very special episode on to celebrate the fact that we are actually putting on another 35mm print screening here at the Review Cinema in Toronto, along with our pal Brandon Lim of Black Belt Cinema. We're going to be playing the film Shogun Assassin.
Oh yeah.
In a theater, so please join us for that. And we haven't talked about it on the show, so we decided over on the Patreon we're going to talk about that, and we're going to pair it with The Sword of Doom from 1966.
One of my top 10 favorite movies of all time. I love it.
I cannot wait, but we wanted to honor the recent passing of Tatsuya Nakade as well. So we wanted to do that. We also want to talk about Shogun Assassin. So please come get a ticket to the review. Come join us. Come watch Shogun Assassin. And over on the Patreon, we'll be talking about that as well as Sword of Doom next week. And then in 2 weeks' time, we have a special guest joining us for an insane episode that I have allowed him to do this. We're going to be talking about Carrie 2 and Blair Witch 2.
Oh my God.
Let's go.
I just watched, I'll tell you this. I just watched Carrie 2 with Spencer for his pod, and it actually is really good.
I have heard that it's not bad. So I have not seen it.
Blair Witch 2 is terrible. Blair Witch 2 is unwatchably bad, but
I've literally not seen either of them. So
oh man, I love a challenge.
That's how we're wrapping up Noirvember and getting back into the usual shenanigans on this show. We're gonna go Sword of Doom straight into Carrie 2 and Blair Witch 2. So
amazing.
That's
the
what
highs
we do
and
on this
lows
show.
of the Sleazoids experience. That's what you can expect over the following 2 weeks. But yeah, thanks so much for listening as always, and keep it sleazy.
Keep it sleazy, everybody.
Bye.
Perfect.
No period.
Period.